Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to theCUBE's live coverage of the Snowflake Summit 2026 here at Moscone. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight, alongside Dave Vellante, co-founder of theCUBE. We've got a terrific guest for this next segment, Mike Blandina, Chief Information Officer at Snowflake. Welcome back, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great to have you.
Yeah.
And Vinayak Kagalkar, SVP, CIO, Head of Engineering at Clover Fiserv. Welcome.
Thank you.
I want to start with you, Vinayak, to tell our viewers a little bit about Clover, which is part of Fiserv. So tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, as you noticed, Clover is the financial and commercial business platform supporting the SMB-focused market. We are about 13 years, First Data acquired Clover around 2013, and been focused as a commerce platform for SMBs. We are serving about 1 million merchants in 12 countries, processing about 330 billion GPV over the years. And the special about Clover is fully integrated commerce platform. We build our purpose-built hardware, fully integrated with payment processing as well as point of sale. And also we provide the back office, embedded finance, and that's the core part of it. It's a well-integrated system. Historically, these integration was available only for enterprise merchants. The focus here is to make all these fully integrated features to our SMBs. And that's one of the areas where we partnered with Snowflake about 8 years back. We are one of the earlier partners with Snowflake. And the purpose there was, how can we make the intelligent data access visible and available to our SMB merchants? That was the focus where we started. And we chose Snowflake as a partner, not only as a data warehouse, it's a data platform. And that time the AI was not there, but we wanted to make sure that we provide business analytics and insights to the SMB merchants, what is typically available for enterprise. From there we started the journey, and today we are with the AI era, ML. We started building agents so that way we can build business insight agents so that SMB merchants can understand their business very well, and also we can provide actionable insights to them so that they can make the necessary changes to improve their business, and that's where we're in.
Okay, so this is kind of the CIO segment, right? That's why you guys are paired up here.
Yes.
Okay, what has the CIO got on his or her plate today?
Well, depending on the day, I can go anywhere from strategist to janitor. And then sometimes sales in between. So at our show here, I'm a little bit of everything and above. But you know, certainly at Snowflake, we're trying to stay ahead of our customers, but also stay connected with them, right? So building great AI capability on top of our data cloud, and building things. My team is building things internally that we know will be relevant for our customers. So I'm building them for Snowflake first, and then some of those things make their way into the product so that our customers don't have to build them. They become some of the standard features when the product is delivered.
You know, it's interesting. I interviewed Bipul Sinha, who's the CEO of Rubrik at RSAC, and he said something similar, Mike. He said, you want to be ahead of your customers, but you don't want to be 200 miles ahead of your customers. You want to be close enough that you can solve the problems before they do, but in close proximity to that problem. Do you find presumably the same thing?
Yeah, same thing, right? We started using AI and data analytics for our own internal business operation, right? How we are doing in terms of our feature adaptation, our customer metrics, our business metrics, revenue, and supply chain. And that's where we started building our own internal toolings. And then we started opening those features to our merchants, since we are in the merchant solution, so we provide.
So as CIOs, how does how you spend your time today differ from how you spent your time, say, 5 years ago, before this AI boom?
I'll start. 5 years ago, I wasn't vibe coding on the weekends.
Okay, all right, there you go.
And so that's a new thing. But I do find myself, beyond the vibe coding piece of it, really making sure we understand the impact our tools are having, and then how can I deploy those internally, both help the company inside, but help the product going outside. It's a different mindset, really. So as an example, 5 years ago, I would ask my team to write a product spec. Today, I ask them to type their thoughts into CoCo, because CoCo will turn that into a markdown document. And from that markdown document, you can immediately start building capabilities, right? And that's just a completely different way to think about the problem, right? So that's a simple example.
Yeah. How about you, Vinayak?
And the same thing as Mike said, right? We started vibe coding. I used to look for front-end developers to carve out the thoughts I have in mind. Now I don't need that. I can just go and create vibe code and prompt it in vibe code, and I can tell my story. This is what I want to build, right? That's becoming easy now. Same time, telling the story, right? Like use cases, telling the story to the product team or the sales team, that's become easy now. That's one part of it. The second part is the operational aspects of it, right? Historically, I saw somewhere we saw no Jira tickets anymore, right? We don't need to ask someone to do the work. We're very self-service now, right? We can build a self-service agent. We are able to do our work with the agent, or we can quickly access the data now with these agents and tools. I think I see the difference in day-to-day.
Interesting, so I'm interested in what you're vibe coding. Like, I'll vibe code stuff that kind of, A, doesn't matter, or B, is like a prototype, you know? What are you guys vibe coding?
Well, part of what I do is I'm trying to experience what my team's experiencing, right? And so I gave a team, we were thinking about building a new pricing and billing platform. And I was getting a bunch of pushback from my team. Well, you got to integrate it with this, and you got to change this. And they were looking from the paradigm of what they built 5 years ago. And I said, it's okay to burn that down. Like, let's think about it brand new, because we can do, in years past with the old development life cycle, you might, remodel versus build new, because a remodel was cheaper or quicker. And so I challenged them and said, I'm going to go try it myself. I built this before, many years ago, let me just start going at it. And so I would just carve out 4 hours every Sunday, because that's what my wife would give me, and in 5 Sundays, I built not just a prototype, I built a full working system, 60 entities, a full React front end, all the APIs, a full batch process. And then I said, you do a demo of yours and I'll do a demo of mine. and so, and by the way, they had some terrific things they built as well, right? But it was a way for me to better understand what they were experiencing and what's working, what's not working. And we also learned from it to build new features into the tools.
And yet it did need to come from the top of, it's okay to put that in.
No question.
To do away with that old system of doing
things. No, I literally sat in a room and said, burn it down. You have my permission, right? So, yeah.
Excellent.
So change management is such an important part of the CIO's role. And feels like a lot of organizations are going through a lot of change. So how would you describe the dynamics today in your organization and how you're handling the change management?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting part, and especially we are in a financial services industry, the change is very difficult because of the compliance and regulatory aspects of it. But I think that the industry has accepted now, and especially in the engineering force, right? People started accepting the benefits of the AI and automation part of it, right? There's a lot of places where historically we used to look for code reviews, SDLC processes used to take 2 to 3 weeks to make a simple changes. Now we are able to do it within a half day and commit, right? I think people have started seeing the advantages of it, and people started accepting it. But same time, I think there is still a control freakness is still there, right? The controls, like, are we ready to put this code in front of customers? I think since financial industry has a good control system, I think we apply the same controls for AI agents and tools. We feel good about it. I think I see significant adaptation last 6 months in AI tooling and all that.
So as a software company, you can presumably move faster than a highly regulated industry, but does the pace of change negatively affect your ability to introduce or enforce standards? And how you deal with that?
Well, I think you can enforce standards in the model. So as an example, in CoCo, you can just say, in this particular project, anything we build, here's a set of boundaries that you, as my agent for code development, should not cross. Here's my standards for the type of artifacts we want to use and the type of code we want to use. And so you can do that up front, just like you would do on a paper document and enforce through the software development lifecycle. We've done things like, in my team, we've moved to a 1-week Agile sprint cycle. And just that idea really sort of people's heads exploded the first month or two that we did that. And now everyone looks back 4 or 5 months later and goes, actually it works and it makes complete sense. It's just moving faster, but we can still do our ceremonies. We can still do our processes, but the actual coding part of it just goes so much faster.
So what was a sprint prior to that? What was the
3
duration of
weeks.
the sprint? 3 weeks, even that's pretty fast, Mike.
Being ambitious.
Yes, yeah. Most of the teams I've worked with in the past, when I was at JP Morgan, we were on a 2-week sprint cycle. And so we had agreed when I joined Snowflake to do 3, but we went from 3 to 1. And it was a shock. It was a shock to the system, but now it's like, and again, your ceremonies, your demos go much quicker, your planning discussions go much quicker, and you need less time for the coding part of the sprint, right? And so it makes a ton of sense, but these are all scary changes for people that have been doing something a certain way for 20 years.
Well, you mentioned CoCo as a way to enforce those standards. Here's your boundaries, go. That assumes everybody uses CoCo. Now CoCo, I haven't used it, but it sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
So people like it and do it. You mentioned JPMC. You had Jamie Dimon say, thou shalt, embrace AI,
Yes.
or you're in trouble. Okay, great. And people at the organization probably said, okay, let's go. And then now you have a lot of things.
When Jamie speaks, people listen.
course,
Yes,
yes,
yes.
Yes.
It has that effect.
Even people outside of JP Morgan
Yes.
Chase. And so, but you have a lot of activity bubbling up now.
Yep.
So you had the top-down edict, and now you got the personal, innovation bubbling up. How are you seeing that in your organization, number one? Number two, how do you then make sure you're not just creating islands of innovation?
Yeah, I think we started, again, initially.
Or I should say, islands of intelligence is a better term. Right, go ahead.
Yeah, I think initially it was a curiosity, right? Everybody was trying to wipe code, everybody was trying to use the AI tools. But now I think as the industry has matured, the tooling has come to surface. People started accepting it. Now I think the main thing is from architecturally, we still have the old principles, right? I think as part of the evolution of data platform building, we try to bring the data into centralized warehouse. The data in the silos has been cleaned up, right? I think those principles are still there. And this is helping a lot for AI story. Right? Historically, we had databases with their own components and other stuff. We built everything in a Snowflake base. And then we started putting agents to help this, right? That's the one of the things to help. But I think people are still trying different models, that's still there. People are still trying different harnesses, whether it's a Claude, OpenAI, Gemini, and there are some engineers are attached emotionally with one tool versus another tool. But we are trying to standardize that as go. But at least we want to give flexibility for our engineering teams to build the right things. But same time, architecturally we are standardizing how we use data, where is an architectural principles we do, and as Mike said, try to put some controls around it, right? We don't want to go and get some middleware randomly, 25 middlewares floating around. We try to standardize, like all user interfaces should be in React. If it is a microservice framework, should be in Java or Spring Boot, right? Because it's a long run, we still need to maintain the code and manage it. So that guidelines we put it, but same time, this industry is evolving, the tools are evolving, we need to be open-minded to adapt. And then based on the use cases, right? Because sometimes if you're handling a particular data, maybe particular models are good. If you're handling a video or multimedia contents, maybe the other models may be good. So we're a little bit open on that aspect, but same time, we don't want to compromise on the architectural principles.
But you had the latitude to do that at Clover, and you could pick and choose the pieces of Fiserv that you wanted to bring in, right? And in many respects, Snowflake, you had the advantage because you got the Snowflake, data platform. For a larger company, they've got a lot of everything.
Right.
And the different departments have their own sort of data sets. How would you, thinking about maybe your experience at JPMC, And a lot of this is actually, they'll talk about publicly, but so I'm not asking for confidential information, but just generically, a large organization like that that's very complex, how do they move from, which is a CIO challenge, point A to where they want to get, without having to bring in an army of consultants? Maybe you need some consultants, but how do you approach that, Mike? Do you start at the edge? Do you have skunkworks and then learn from that? What's the best practice that you would recommend there for large organizations?
I think one of the things we see is solve what's very solvable today. Don't overreach. Take your most repetitive task, solve them. And AI can do that really well, really quickly. Inevitably, I think you've gotten to this. There is some culture in this, right? And there is a culture change. And we've seen some people take the AI red pill really quickly, and others, not swallow it very well, right? And I don't even think it's an age thing, or I do think some of your more senior engineers are sort of steeped in the dogma of software development life cycles, and some of them may feel less valuable just writing in English, right? And so I think early on it's sort of a 2 sticks and a carrot approach, and eventually you get to 1 stick and a stick and a carrot. We've sort of had to push it in terms of we're going to measure this. It becomes part of what you do. But eventually, I think most people get over the hump. Not all, but most get over the hump, and then you sort of stop measuring and you start encouraging and you start rewarding, based on behavior, right? And so you can start to see the teams that are really, really going fast and the ones that are still struggling a little bit because they're doing it the old way.
So you're measuring, am I right? You start by measuring and monitoring behavior, and then you're measuring outcomes, is
Absolutely,
that right?
Absolutely, yep. Behavior's got to come first, because I think everyone's exploring and learning, right? And so we took we had the privilege of taking most of the company and saying, go do this, including our sales team. We said, go code in CoCo. And man, they built thousands of Streamlit dashboards because that was the obvious thing they understood, right?
Look what I did.
Look what I did, look what I did. And by the way, they all thought they were amazing. But then we sort of then came back and reined in the chaos a little bit, but it was good to give everyone a taste of it, right? And it taught our finance team what it meant to build with AI, and now when their engineering partners are meeting with them, they're much better at understanding the process and why certain questions are getting asked and how to partner with them.
You're describing something so interesting, because AI just as a topic is pretty divisive right now in our country, in the world. And you're talking about changing behaviors. You're obviously a technologist and a tech optimist. How do you encourage people to think about AI? There's a lot of fear-mongering going on, but is it just a tool? Is it just another tool that you now have to work with, or is it so revolutionary, which is what scares people, I think, and maybe why there's resistance?
I think today it is both revolutionary and a tool.
Okay,
right?
All right.
But if you go, things in technology repeat themselves, right? I'm old enough to remember the case tool days in the 80s, the 4GL days, and then more recently in the late 2000s, we had the low-code, no-code craze, right? I think certainly from a coding perspective, this is sort of the end evolution of all of that, right? And so I don't think you can ignore it, but we've all been there. I had this discussion with my wife last week where she said, I asked her a question and she gave me an answer, and I said, well, that's not correct. And she said, well, that's what Gemini said. And I said, I'm pretty sure Gemini's wrong, right? But she is already, she's not an AI person or a tech person, but she now believes that if Gemini told her, it must be written in stone, right? And so I just think we're all, both families, work, co-workers, the entire industries are going through this same wave together.
Yeah, it's a lot of change, a lot of change. And so how about you, Vinayak, when you are thinking about what you are experiencing here at Summit, what you're hearing in terms of new announcements, new innovations, the conversations that you're having with your peers, maybe your competitors too, what are you taking away that you're going to bring back to work with you on Monday? What is most striking to you?
I think as Mike said, right, there is a evolution as well as this is the way we need to adapt to it, and I think initially there will be resistance, there will be a question whether this is a technology, this is going to work or not, but I think people have seen, at least now last couple of years, people have seen AI is working, as we said, right? Again, you have various examples, people creating contents, people analyzing the data, whether it's a healthcare or the industries, autonomous driving, you name it. There's a various spaces we have seen the AI's presence. I think in especially software engineering space is going to be quickly adopted compared to any other industry.
Yeah.
But I think there is a lot of productivity improvements are happening. Of course, the token discussion is triggering now last couple of weeks,
sure.
but having said that, if you can wisely use this technology, I think there's a lot of productivity gain is going to happen. We're going to produce the best-in-class products. At the end of the day, we're going to produce product for the consumers who can use it and make their decisions, right? That's how we are in the business. And I see that. And again, I said, as Mike said also, right, we started with the VI editors. Now the CLI is back. Everybody's talking command lines, right? Everybody wants to talk using command line. In between, we all gone through.
We did just announce the CoCo desktop,
yeah.
so
there you go.
you don't have to use the command line anymore. Yeah.
But I think it's like amazing how things are getting, right? It's using natural language, you can interact with the system and get the things done. I think people are accepting, even I was like, the various teams within that, people are doing skills, people are writing coroutines, right? I'm like, since I'm also involved in hardware, people are doing firmware updates, diagnostic using AI. People are writing those type of functionalities. It's a repeatable task, but how can they quickly do it? Right? I think it's going to make a significant impact in the productivity.
I think you're right. Vinayak, Mike, thank you both so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure, enjoyed it.
I'm Rebecca Knight for Dave Vellante. Stay tuned for more of theCUBE's live coverage of the Snowflake Summit. You're watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise tech news and analysis.